Welcome back, everyone, to StarLadder and iLeague StarSeries Season 3. We're all worse to the last match of the day, opposing Zalae versus his final opponent, SuperJJ. I think he's going to have a few more games to go, but does
Shotgun!
Zalae have any more matches after this one, I think? In
Let me
the
check.
entirety of the event, I think that's the last one he's going to have to dispute, right?
Yeah, that's his last one. He
Yeah,
is sitting at
so-
4-2, currently third place. RDU is spearheading the Group B with 5 wins, 1 loss. Stan Sivko with 4 wins, 1 loss is at the second position. And we have Zalae on the third one. But Stan Sivka has still 2 matches to play, while Zalae only 1. The other players actually are kind of lower bracket because they have all 2 wins or less. And Kolento, Stan, Pavel have 2 wins, but they all have 5 matches played. While JJ have only 3 matches played out, and he's sitting at 1-2. Show us
That's
0-5.
not,
Honorable mention.
Yeah, show ended up going down the way of Frozen, which is so far no wins on the board. It's been very grueling for a lot of these players. They still show up and
Show up?
try to do their best. Yes, show did. Try to put on.
Show kind of didn't show up.
He did, but just didn't give us the show. Show usually shows. It felt
Right.
kind of low on the show side.
We're starting with the Paladin versus a Druid. Aggro Druid, though, it can have disgusting draws, like completely obnoxious openings, but it's not this game. And I feel like this is something that we see often from Zalae. He's just not getting those early game draws for either of his aggro decks.
Any of his decks. Honestly, he's been drawing really the bad end of his decks, no matter how we look at it. Some games they do okay, but it's never really this blowout opener, which you're looking for with aggro. In this case, though, we said, the hand's kind of bad. It's not super high quality. But when you look at Beast plus double Mark of your charge, you're looking at a really powerful turn, even though it's not very explosive in terms of how many minions you're playing. It's especially weak to Coin, True Silver, for instance. But anything else is acceptable.
In this case, it will even get value. Ooh, that's unfortunate. You can't really play both.
You can't afford to play the fledgling here. You just lose to War Leader. You lose the
Innervate from the
game to
top
War
of the
Leader,
game?
right?
Yeah. If you just play the fledgling, you will just most likely lose the game. So you need the board control right now, and then do something about that fledgling. Because he needs the time to attack the face just for one time, just one time.
Innervate would be insane for Zalae here, as he'd be able to play the fledgling and also innervate out Mark of Yasharj and Mark of the Lotus on top of that, which would be quite good. Now, the Violet Teacher does show up as a pretty solid option when you're looking at Mark of the Lotus, Mark of Yasharj, and Power of the Wild playable on 5. It's a tough call to make.
Okay, that's not bad actually. I mean, not now, but for 10-6, like if you will want to wait with the Violet Teacher, you can go for 10-6 Violet Teacher Pirate into Mark of the Lotus, which builds up a really huge board down. The problem is that he's running against a control Paladin, so it's not like the typical mid range would just runs 1 equality. In this case, his opponent is actually running 2, so that's a really huge difference.
Yeah, SuperJJ's build for Paladin is very interesting because it includes like the Murloc package, the mid-range deck that you'd expect, but then also sprinkles in 2 equalities and 2 pyromancers, which gives him a lot of game against these types of decks that are very aggressive. So his mid-range Pally is teched to come back from behind and then just get the usual top end. Spike Steed, Tyrion Forgings, and everything. Yep. Definitely a better deck against these types of decks. But he needs to get the Consec, he needs to get the Pyro, otherwise things can
Is he even
snowball.
running Pyro? Give me a second.
Yes, he is running double Pyro.
He should be, right? It just makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very interesting spin on the mid-range. I think he's cutting a copy of the buff somewhere. I forget which
Double
one.
Pyro, double Equality. He doesn't play Tide Colors, so that's the cut.
Right, he's cutting the 1-drops. Correct.
And only 1 Spike Root Steed.
Right. Cutting 1 copy of the buffs. And then probably another card we're forgetting. But it is definitely more on the slow side. And it's trying to set up explosive Murloc boards all at once in the later stages of the game instead of just trying to go all in on them early. So sometimes suffers from a lack of consistency. And now on the rope with a tough decision. You got 2 seconds to pick, my man, and he picks up the +1/+1.
Which is not terrible.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's kind of weak against the Mark of the Lotus, especially with that Violet Teacher. But the question is, you might actually go for the Fledgling instead with the Pirate and just go wide. And that Fledgling will most likely get the value because you will get the trade with the Direwolf. I mean, first, of course, with the Beast, with the Wolf, and then with the Direwolf. And you will be able to clear out the board.
The big upside of that play is that you're able to set up Savage Roar, right? As you said, like you just get maximum value from your damage output setups. And Violet Teacher can be used as refill for later. The thing is, she's a 1-card fill up the board and still set up a good roar. So I'd be tempted personally to play Teacher Mark of the Lotus almost every time.
Okay.
But I can definitely see the other side of the argument where you're looking to keep her as the refill.
It's a tough decision. It's kind of funny because this aggro deck is actually one of the most impactful decisions to make in all of the aggro decks. Super hard. Super hard to say which one is the best, actually.
It's like, when do you go all in? It's not as easy as just, oh, hey, I play cards on curve. Sometimes you get those games. It happens, right? Let's not kid ourselves. It happens, sometimes you just get the curves, you just win with Savage Roar on turn 4, and the game's over. There's a lot of games where you then have to decide which cards to use at what point. Mark of the Lotus with the least minions doesn't feel good, but at the same time, it's often just correct, like in this spot. So definitely a few variations. And we see the Consecration coming into JJ's hand, enabling him to clean up the board whenever he wants to.
All right. He buys some time because now he has the option of a quality consecration on next turn. Just fine, because he knows that most likely Zalae will be pushed to use some spells to generate more minions, to generate pressure, but at the same time he has the reset button. So I like this a lot. And now the question for Zalae is, does he go for it? Like,
I think we could see Zalae here slow down, right?
Might be the case, yes. I mean, he can still play Fireflies because they replace themselves. Maybe just one, even.
Is he trying to just set up lethal is the question? Because if he goes the widest, he sets up lethal the earliest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the downside to the play of just going all in is that he's giving himself no outs against Equality Pyro. He could have played Vicious Fledgling and Hero Power to kill the 1/1, and in that way pushed a little bit less damage, but still gotten himself the ability to win the game, and had the refill Firefly, Flame Elemental, Firefly, Flame Elemental, Blood Corsair for 6 minions into a Savage Roar on the following turn for a full-blown 14. So.
But I feel like every single time you play a Fledgling, your opponent is pushed to use the entire board clear. In this case, he's still pushed to do it, but he does it for the entire mana that he has available. So next turn you can just play the Fledgling, and maybe your opponent just can't answer it. And that's what I feel in this situation,
Yeah, I mean, Zalae's setting up lethal. He's got his opponent at 24, and he's got 24 damage when he plays Savage Roar. So that's the reason why he's made this board state exactly the way that it is. So Zalae definitely thinking that he can win on the refill if he doesn't win now. And he's putting the onus on SuperJJ to have a taunt that isn't Sunkeeper Tarim. Or a Consecration alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Zalae, will he lose his board? He kind of expected it. It was one or the other, right? Pyro, Equality. At least this time it's not the Pyro, and it doesn't have a 1/1 left over. Oh, man.
Well, this is odd. He played one... SuperJJ played one Peacekeeper already, so that Hydra has bigger value. But you can't play Fledgling, and Fledgling is just getting worse and worse, progressively worse towards the game.
Yeah, and I mean, the Bittertide Hydra is also pretty bad against Sunkeeper Tarim in general. So there are like 2 cards that nullify it, but you're compensating by going wide, such that if the Hydra gets debuffed, then the little Flame Elementals get buffed, so you're compensating for the loss. And I kind of like that line of play from Zalae. It's a very good in-between. The issue is that everything he does is in-between, and it's never really fully committing to what Aggro Druid wants to do, which is go all in as early as you can to steal that win from your opponent or steal that time from them. And now he's on Living Mana, which can be very helpful. There's another card in this deck that can definitely swing back the game in his favor.
He plays one more copy, though. Only one. 2 Hydras, 2 Valid Teachers, and just 1 Living Mana. Because of the fact that he plays the Valid Teachers and then the Hydra, because they are the end game, basically. Instead of the Living Mana, which is the most common option for other players who are picking Aggro Druid.
Yeah, Living Mana, usually the card you play 2 of instead of the Hydra, because it's definitely more capable of... It's a single card slot that wins the game on its own, right? Whereas for Violet Teacher, you're really looking for the support, which already exists, so it's fine. The Hydra, on the other hand, is the card that is the most debated, I think, in this deck.
Mm-hmm.
Violet Teacher is still sees play, but the Hydra less so.
Oh, Innervate being the worst possible draw right now.
But at least we can play the Fledgling, and if there's no second board clear, we're connecting for a lot next turn.
That is true. Well, what the Innervate does is it has to be kept for the second Violet Teacher. If you go for the Hero Power Fledgling Savage Roar, no, that makes no sense, because you can't go through the Neutron anyway. So if you use the patches to do that instead, you're able to play Savage Roar, Hero Power, Innervate, Fledgling, and then go through and connect the Hydra to the face.
Which is probably the highest damage output turn you're going to get this game, so you should probably seek it. Yeah. That is indeed what he's going to end up doing. The trades are a little bit clunky, but you're connecting
they definitely
for max
are.
damage.
And probably will not even kill the 1/1 in this case. Yeah, just connects with the face. Goes for the Fledgling. I think it's fine.
I think it's okay, because if there's a board clear, like if there's equality alone, then you lose one of your bigger minions, and then the Paladin probably doesn't have enough mana to do very much. In this case, we see that's not the case. He's got equality, he's got True Silver, he can slow down and still be okay with this. That's probably one of the worst case scenarios for Zalae, is that True Silver coming on top of the second equality. Yeah, he doesn't win with Savage Roar as a draw, so there's no single draw in Zalae's deck that gives him the win immediately, if equality True Silver is what JJ does.
Yep, but he still has a chance to draw that. Oh my god.
Living Mana?
Living Mana, yes. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely probably the MVP draw in his deck. I mean, he has another Savage Roar to follow it up. He's got another Mark of the Lotus, another Power of the Wild, and enough mana at this point in the game to make use of it. Savage Roar is not enough. It's it's 1 off, sorry, with a Hero Power, I think.
Well, it's at 6 damage, so it is not.
Yeah, it is going to be 9 damage here.
He still has outs in his deck because he has a swipe.
He plays a single copy of it. Okay.
I think. Give me a moment. I'll check.
It's very rare, but it does happen. We do see it sometimes as a 1 of in the deck.
No, sorry. He doesn't actually play it.
Lothar lied.
I lied.
Again.
So the only out for Zalae would be
his opponent disconnecting. Living Mana would help, maybe, but not against Primordial Drake.
That's about it.
I don't think there's anything. Primordial Drake just shuts that down. So yeah, Zalae just not getting the right opener here. We saw him start on turn 2, double Mark of Yashars for his first plays. I mean, that's the slowest it's gonna get. It just doesn't get any slower than that for this deck.
All right, the turn kind of stops the game anyway.
Bittertide Hydra could be a hope that Zalae is holding on to. He's thinking maybe Bittertide comes out, bails me out of this tier, and then I can connect face. But we know for a fact that the Drake is another layer of taunts the Hydra won't go through.
Now even this kind of ruins your day.
Zalae is
Everything
just
is too slow.
the unluckiest aggro player I've seen in this event. I think we've seen Orange draw poorly, but I think Zalae is definitely taking the cake as far as what he draws at the wrong time. These two innervates are definitely good examples of exactly that.
Well,
in true poker fashion, hides the second card. And JJ is going to take it with the Paladin. It's not that good for the Paladin player of a matchup, but Zalae still ended up falling behind. He's going to get honestly, he's going to get many shots at this, and Priest is going to struggle against the three classes that Zalae is piloting. So,
well, the Rogue will probably kind of struggle as well here, right?
Yeah.
The aggro Druid should just punish him severely, although we just seen it, Zalae is playing a slower Druid. So if he just draws the Hydras and the Violet Teachers, it might just not end well, because the Rogue will just faster. That's the problem. But if he manages to open up with a few small minions and a Mark of the Lotus, then that spells huge problems for the Rogue, just being finished up by a Savage Roar at some point. So definitely a tricky matchup for a slower kind of Druid, but in this case we're gonna play Warrior against Priest. Zalae kept the upgrade. Interesting. Because there's no Fair Warlocks in his hand yet. And upgrade alone doesn't really give you much in this matchup, because every single minion has more than 1 HP, and you don't want to damage, like let's say your opponent drops Cleric on turn 1. You don't want to damage that because that allows your opponent to draw cards.
I think upgrade is just if he's keeping it, and again, I'm not defending the choice. I'm just looking at it, trying to figure out why he's keeping it, and that would probably be because it pushes the most damage individually of pretty much any card at 1 mana in your deck, right? So if you pick up any weapon, it's going to do a ton of work, and so it's just betting on finding that weapon to end the game fast, because the priest can't stop you unless they get that Shambler out, and oftentimes you need to use many weapon charges on value minions that get silenced, for instance. That's probably the only reason I can see that work. Oh man.
Well, upgrading Fury War Axe makes it really good. So, oh, here we go. Look at that. You can even coin it out right now, kill the Cleric, and get an instant synergy on 10-2 with the Raider.
Yeah, and there's no Shadow Word Death likely in a Purified Priest deck. Sometimes we've seen Shadow Word Paint crop up because the deck can be geared towards anti-aggro, but when it comes to dealing with a 5/3 that comes out on turn 2, you're often just not capable to do it. And so the only fear of Zalae would be that his upgrade has no value if Radiant Elemental comes out. Like, that's the closest thing to a problem. Is Radiant Elemental shows up right now, and then he can't get the ball rolling with that Raider. Otherwise, he's just shipping it. Oh my goodness, here we go.
Well, you can't really stop that. At least not now with this draw for JJ. He would have to kill both minions with 3 mana to deny the synergy with the Cultist.
Would involve a humongous Razor Leaf, and now the big question is, does Zalae respect it? Because if a Shambler's in the hand, that's a minion you can't let live. It really just cannot be allowed to live. If it gets Shamblered, if it gets Divine Spirited, and there's a big taunt that comes out, if he goes Silence plus Shambler, you lose the game. So this is one of those pivotal points where...
I don't think you lose. Sorry for interrupting you, but with this kind of hand, I don't think you lose. You can actually manage to risk that 1 turn because you have the upgrade and the Heroic.
I think you have to kill the 4/8 every time. I think the only way you lose this game is if Priest gets any of these guys online.
Okay.
It's the literal 100% way. I mean, there's the like 1% time you're going to lose this is going to be in that spot.
All right. Well, makes sense. Makes sense. Now Zalae will have second question asked.
Oh, that's pretty good, given the fact that he might be overriding it at some point. The fact that there's another 4/8 here really... It makes Zalae... The thing is, like, if SuperJJ ends up silencing the 4/8, then he kills the 5/3 anyway. So you could trade it away in the first place and just be happy about it, right?
But do you want to sacrifice another 8 or 9 even points of damage, or even 10 in this case?
I mean, the thing is, you're getting infinite damage. You're getting infinite damage if these die. Like, they're never stopping you after this one.
Yeah,
like, literally, Priest cannot stop you if you just kill this one last guy. So you can have like up to turn 12 to kill them, and they just will sit there.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Feels kind of awful, for sure. It definitely doesn't feel Pirate Warrior-esque. I'll say that much, but
No, I like this this move that Zalae actually did because it sets up a really awkward Shambler. Like, what does it do? 4/3 minion with taunt? That's not a problem for Zalae, especially with another upgrade with the green skin in hand next turn.
you're right. This is super elegant. I mean, it
This
just
is
handles the
best
minion
possible move,
perfectly.
yes. Very nicely done by Zalae.
Extremely elegant. It leaves the minion, even if it's silenced off, it does nothing, or at least very little. And if it's Shamblered, yeah, good luck with that. Look at that 4/3 doing nothing on the board. Oh, is there lethal on the board now? We have 10 plus, we have 14 plus the South Sea Captain is not enough, but it's close enough that you probably just green skin this, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a lot of synergy with the captain, but your weapon just becomes such a threat. And most likely will not lose more than one pirate next turn. Because the entire deck from the priest is actually a combo deck. So there's a high chance that he's just sitting on Inner Fires, Divine Spirits, Power Word Shields that didn't have time to be well, he did actually have time to use it last turn, so maybe not that. But what else can there be? Like Shadow Word Pain can be an option, of course, but it still kills on the second additional pirate. In this case, Zalae recognized that and actually plays around it and denies the additional card draw from the Acolyte of Pain. But just so much damage is going to the face of JJ. Can't really do much about it.
Yeah, and the Purifier finally shows up, but I mean, that's too little too late.
Where's the greater healing potion right now when you need it?
I mean,
What
I
is
remember the
doing now?
days, like the very early days of Purify Priests, in the very early phases of it, people were still running Dragonfire Potion. It was still running there as like this emergency button against aggro, and then people realized we can make our Purify Priest just highly aggressive. And when that happened, then you had a shift to where value cards like weapons end up just destroying the deck. And so the matchup against some of these weapon-based aggro decks falls apart very quickly.
True. Good recognition by Zalae to keep the upgrade, although it would not end well if you wouldn't draw a weapon.
Yeah, no weapon there really made Zalae's game go downhill, because this Fiery War Axe is the reason he was able to keep himself ahead for the entirety of this.
Agree. Now, Miracle Rogue against Zalae Paladin. Do you think like that's the best possible matchup out of every single one from Zalae? Because he could have actually chosen the Druid, right? Against
I think
Miracle
Druid
Rogue.
is better than Paladin at doing this, and now Zalae again on the amazing aggro draw picks up 2 Steeds,
Fantastic.
2 Rockpool Hunters in typical Zalae fashion. So he's going to be playing that mid-range Paladin game plan. That's where we're going. I mean, you got to brace up because you've got no choice. Looks like that's all you can do today.
And that is so like disheartening.
On the
Good
flip
dude.
side, he
He
got
has
at least
Finja,
good
right?
plays. Yeah,
He has
that was-
Finja into Spike Reach, so that's actually pretty decent.
It's bad against Sap, but it's pretty good against everything else. Depends if you're able to kill something, and the rogue might not give you too much to feast on. Uh-oh.
Did it drop something?
No, do we just play Razor Petal, Coin Edwin? Or do we just slow down?
It's only a 6/6, right? If your
Probably
opponent
dagger.
has a Trucifer champion, just kills it out with ease. And that paddle just didn't do anything.
The Gentle Megasaur spooks me, so maybe you just dagger Razor Petal one of these two guys. Do you just Fan of Knives instead? How slowly can you play this and still get away with it? That's the balance that SuperJJ is trying to find here. Can I wait 2 or 3 more
yeah.
turns?
I don't think like leaving around both of them is a valid option, to be honest.
And he finds Gaddison, which while cute is not going to make him too happy. when he sees what's coming next turn. On the flip side, JJ does have Razor Petal plus the Fan of Knives. If there is no +1/+1, +3 health, or Divine Shield, he's good to go.
It's +1/+1, and then definitely Living Spores. I feel like Spores are good enough because you don't have more synergy with Murlocs, so you don't really want to keep those Murlocs alive. While the overall damage will be probably bigger when they die, but this pushes more damage this turn. And
Yeah,
you
and
have seen that JJ didn't have an option to clear those minions, right?
Yeah, and now there's no good backstab target aside from the Megasaur, which is then not easily killable. And JJ's looking at his hand like, yeah, sure. Thank you for this, Blizzard. Well, I mean, that's the Miracle deck in a nutshell. Sometimes you don't pick up those Eviscerates. Sometimes you don't pick up those backstabs, and things get awkward. Ha! Oh, man.
Well, that's awkward. It's definitely awkward. Still, 8 damage going to the face. Ooh. Now that's... Oh, I'm thinking like maybe actually Hydrologist into just the charge, because your opponent just used... I mean the Blue Warrior, because your opponent just used both Fan of Knives and probably has no backstabs because of that.
I honestly really like the Hydrologist Bluegill secret play. But there's a good argument for just pushing Finja when you can guarantee that you can kill anything he plays. Like, if he goes for Coin Gaddison, prep, play, you still have just Steed kill the Gaddison. I mean, it's just really solid to have the Finja as a good target for that Steed. Yeah, look at that. This is just miserable for SuperJJ.
Yep, that kind of sucks. Man, Steed on the Finja. You get Wall Eater.
Yeah, there could be a
Push
lethal
for 10
here,
damage.
right? If you get, well, you need to. If you go Steed and kill, and then you get exactly Bluegill and War Leader, you're pushing the most damage you can get. And I think that's one-off lethal. Yeah, it'd be one-off if you got the War Leader plus Bluegill. But honestly, it's close enough to where it's very satisfying if you're Zalae. It's satisfying enough to go and do it.
Well, that's pretty decent, I would say.
Yep.
5 HP on SuperJJ doesn't really do much. Hallucination into what? Equality doesn't really do much because there's no more Fan of Knives.
These are all useless.
Yeah, that's about it. Vanish would be nice if you had 7 mana. Unfortunate.
That's what you expect when you see aggro decks go up against rogue decks. To be fair, though, that Miracle Rogue from JJ should have had a much easier time than it did. It got the wrong end of that deck. Zalae did get kind of a bad hand. If we're talking about an aggro deck, guy gets 2 Rockpool Hunters, 2 Steeds, not what you're looking for. Gets the Finja, no 1-drops. So clearly both players not drawing optimally, but JJ's hand with no backstab was definitely on the weaker side of things. And now Zalae's got a Hungry Crab Druid, and there's a, like, this has got to work at some point.
At some point, yes.
I mean, that aggro Druid against Rogue just has such a good matchup, right? Like, you can't possibly just keel over and die every time.
Yeah, you can't. But, okay, this is a really tough question. Do you want to keep the Hungry Crabs when you know you have better minions in your deck? But those are at least early game minions. So...
they're 1-drops, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, with Mark of Yashar, it definitely feels, much better suddenly.
Hallucination for JJ.
Just give me please. Oh, well, it curves very well with the Sharazin. It's a 5-attack minion, so it'll be enabled. Can get Divine Shield. It's okay. You can get plants be left over. Plants are good. They're 1/1s against Druid. Sets up a good Fan of Knives.
Oh my god. Whoopsie.
Clearly a misplay by JJ.
Definitely. There should be a cue, like a sound cue. Whenever you draw patches, it's like dum dum dum. Shotgun.
You're in charge now. He just gives up. Now you could play Mark of Yashar to get that biggest crab unbackstabbable. This guy's gonna stick around. It sounds ridiculous to say, but this Hungry Crab is going to deal a lot of damage this game for a 1-drop.
But they want to coin out Firefly? This is such an interesting spot. Like those turn 1, turn 2 are the most complicated for the aggro druid.
Well, now the Eviscerate's looking appealing because it mitigates the most damage. It definitely
does.
looks okay.
But at the
Elder
same
Long
time-
Neck, how do you feel?
Yeah, the long neck is just... If you want to play the long neck, this is the turn when you play the long neck. Alright, it got the adapt.
Got stealth?
Stealth is nice, yes. Stealth is
or
nice.
Volcanic Might, right? It's one or the other. I mean, either way, it gets a trade. And this prevents it from dying to the Druid, which makes it the most important play. Hero Power does not take care of it on its own. This 6-2 is actually quite menacing.
Well, Zalae would have to get patches out of this deck and just buff it with the Mark of the Lotus. That would like be the most elegant way of dealing with it. The other option is just Tar Creeper, and most likely would get smashed by it, right?
If you're Zalae, the Tar Creeper looks okay, but it's just you get sapped, you get eviscerated with a dagger, things feel awkward. So Zalae's just on a hope that there's literally nothing. This is thrown as fodder for SuperJJ to eat up. He does not anticipate this sticks around and does anything useful ever.
Yep. Alright, Sharazan being played on the board. Not really a lot of options to actually revive it. But it's just being played for board control. That's what it does. So it's not even about the fact that it can be revived.
So the Living Mana with Mark of the Lotus is a combination that I'm sure Zalae is contemplating at some point. He knows that he's got a refill for 2 damage, like 2 health on each of the minions, and that's gonna mean a lot because it changes the way that your game goes forward. You have insurance that if things go bad, you still have a winning play.
But Living Mana but Mark of the Lotus next turn actually looks insane.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. Like, this is just nuts. Unless they have exactly Blood Mage, Phantom Knives, Prep, Phantom Knives, you just win. They can't really stop the board full of 3/3s. Not when they don't have a wide board themselves.
Well, that's awkward. That's an awkward turn. I feel like you need to start with the Fan of Knives just to get the draw. Man, no, it's like so bad. This is so terrible.
Is the position you're put in very often? This is actually like a bad matchup for Miracle Rogue, but it's nowhere near as bad as say. I mean, I say it's bad. It's probably just close enough that I'd call it even, but it's just bad enough that if you don't pick up your backstabs early, oftentimes you just fall behind. And we can see that JJ didn't find any explosive opener. The new Miracle Rogue builds rely heavily to win early games on questing adventurers, snowballing, and that's just not been something JJ got. So,
well, they have Razor Leaves, and those are helpful as well. I really like Razor Leaves, actually, as an addition to Miracle Rogue. It's an early game that they need, and they guarantee you spells for Falnos, they guarantee you spells for Auctioneers, so that's pretty nuts.
Yeah. They give you a ton of blowout potential. And Zalae here, making sure he's not going to get ruined by double Phantom Knives or Blood Mage Thanos Phantom Knives. Yeah, ensuring pretty much that everything goes well for him here. It's going to be tough to push him off of this. And funny enough, if JJ trades with one of these guys, Power of the Wild then is going to be playable in the following turn.
And he needs to kill just at least one.
Right, which makes it awful because you're trading 15 damage for 16 damage.
Swashbuckler seems like an obvious choice because you need to see what you're getting first. What are the options? Innervate for next turn. Shadow Step would be actually amazing. What I'm talking about, it's Druid. You can get Shadow Step. But it would be amazing, actually.
Innervate's not good. Druid of the Claw is pretty sweet, right?
Oh,
I'll pass on Jade Blossom. I mean, thanks, but no thanks.
yeah.
I mean, I'll play it
I'll
because you gave
stand.
it to me, but that's the last time I. Yeah.
I feel like you just go for the Fan of Knives to get a prep for the next turn. Gazetin? I don't know, man.
No,
It's bad.
So SuperJJ here recognizing that there's no way killing one of these 3/3s helps him at all. It might even make things worse. So, gonna offer the trace to Zalae. And Zalae might just decline to take any of them. We'll see.
Well, now that's 15 damage to the face. Because I don't feel like you trade with anything.
I mean, you can take the value trades. You're really not losing out on much, to be fair. But I don't think it's necessary. If you take the value trades, you're probably winning anyway.
Yeah, but if your opponent just doesn't have anything in his hand, like, he needs to kill those minions anyway. The only way you can lose is actually Vanish, and your opponent doesn't play that. So
Yeah, double Fan of Knives comes close, but it's not quite it. And either way, you're weak to double Fan, even if you trade. So probably going face is the correct play.
And you will just finish your opponent's next turn if you just do that.
Yeah, it just seems to me that you probably push. If you're afraid of dying to some kind of Cold Blood Eviscerate shenanigan.
One Cold Blood was played already.
Right, so you would be dead to what specifically? It would have to be something like South Sea Cold Blood Evis for the most damage possible. That's not enough. I mean, it's a lot of damage, but you're still gonna win most of the time because your 3/3s end up getting good trades afterwards. So you'd have to really get unlucky, and that's a double Fan.
And a backstep at the end. Unlucky.
Well, he can always backstab one of his own guys if he feels like
to get
getting
Shadows
that
back,
reliable.
right? Yeah, and I feel like that's the most valuable thing you can get right now. It's way better than drawing a card out of Auctioneer next turn.
Is it though? I mean, you're full trading here.
Okay, what are we talking about? You're
full trading.
Yeah, you can't really use backstab because you have no minions.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You'd have to backstab the guy before you trade, which seems just worse than getting the draw off the Auctioneer. And you can still get a lucky streak of zero-cost spells. So it's not completely over. SuperJJ could pick up a prep, could pick up the other backstab, and make this happen. And Eviscerate would be insane for him. This is not even bad.
No, it's actually not terrible because it's guaranteed free damage with Savage Roar.
Maybe you just play Firefly, Flame Elemental, Power of the Wild, or Call of the Wild, sorry. And then keep the patches for the Vor. Probably make it 3/2, right? Or do you play around backstab by buffing them all?
Well, in this situation, you can also keep it to save it for a Violet Teacher draw.
In case things go wrong again? Okay.
Yes, but I don't feel like that's the proper way of playing this matchup anymore when you're so far ahead. Your opponent doesn't have anything, just 3 cards available in hand.
Oh my god, and JJ could get that Eviscerate draw to kill the 4/4 and stabilize. It's gonna take a lot, but he can do it. He's drawing at least 2 cards with just the spells in hand.
Yeah, that's about it.
And that's just a blank. Complete blank. Nice shadows you got there.
Well, Savage Roar finishes up the job. Something we're not, used to anymore. For such a long time, Savage Roar wasn't even played in metagame, right? It was something that we have seen almost in every single game in 2014, 2015, 2016, and not anymore.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I can't complain about it leaving the meta game for a long time. It was very dominant with the force of nature of old. In the meantime, we have a recap of today's results. I think today's games were pretty good. We had some definite missteps, it feels, by a lot of players. Definitely not. I feel like a lot of the players today were not as focused as they've been in previous series that we've cast. Definitely a lot of exhaustion probably kicking in. We're nearing the end of the StarLadder and I-League, round robin stage. We've got 2 more days to go, and these guys are almost done. Some of them are definitely not going to make it. We had Frozen play his last match and did not end up, I think, making the cut. Zalae is probably going to make it through, given the fact that he's just won his last, and he is currently 5-2 in the group, so it's top of his group at the moment. RDU has one more match to play on the 29th that is going to determine if he ends up with the same score as Zalae or ends up top of the group. Either way, doing very well for himself. And Kolento, surprisingly, 4th in his group, despite the fact that he had a very rough start. So we have a lot of matches coming up. We have a total of 12 more before this round robin is over. So, pretty good day of casting, Lothar.
Yeah, that was pretty fast as well. I didn't actually anticipate it. Usually we're like going for 8 hours. This time we actually finished in 5.5.
And you can blame aggro players for that, or thank them, depending on your perspective. It's really just a matter of where you position yourself. Tomorrow we're going to have Neyman versus 6-0, Pavel versus Stan Sivka, Shtanudachi versus JJ, Kolento versus Sivka, JJ versus Show, and then Shtanudachi versus Kolento as the last match of the day. So it should be a very, very packed series of matches. It's going to be very long, too, because a lot of these players are bringing slower matchups. Or slower lineups, that is, and they're going to take their sweet time to make sure they get the maximum benefits they can out of it. So on this note,
fantastic.
It's going to be great. You're going to be casting from Berlin, I think, right? You're going to be in Berlin casting with me. So, yeah, guys, we'll catch you tomorrow. We're going to be starting the broadcast at 6 p.m. CEST. So that's probably the equivalent of 12 noon EST for those of you who are familiar with the Eastern time zone. Until then, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and have a nice one.
See ya.